Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled I Got Fired, then a job offer, and now an old crazy lady is on the internet. This story takes place in a grocery store where I recently stopped to pick up a couple last-minute items for dinner. Personally, I hate shopping but rarely have to do it because my wife generally doesn't mind. We only needed a few items for dinner, so I agreed to stop by on the way home from work. As I am browsing for the perfect rice to pair with dinner, this older lady approaches me. Our conversation went something like this. Old lady, where is the soy sauce? I need soy sauce. I looked around and since we were the only two people in the aisle, I realized she was talking to me. Normally I have no problem helping people, especially older people, but this lady used such a rude and entitled tone and I wasn't going to have it. Me, excuse me? Old lady, soy sauce. Go get me a bottle. Me, I'm sorry ma'am, I don't work here. Old lady, yes you do. Go get me a bottle of soy sauce. Me, I don't work here. I don't mind helping you out but you need to ask nicely. Old lady, yes you do work here. Now, please go get me a bottle of soy sauce before I tell your manager. Me, that was a little better but I'm still not going to get that for you until you acknowledge that I don't work here and that I am doing you a favor. Old lady, so you're not going to get it? At this point I had picked out some rice that would work for dinner and I put it in my shopping basket. I looked at my basket and then I looked at her. At this point I decided, screw this lady. Me. Okay, I'll go get it. Just wait here, I'll be right back. Old lady. Good. I wasn't going to get it. Instead I went to get the last two items I needed while wondering how long that lady would stand there. To my surprise, she really didn't stand there long. As I was finishing up at the self-checkout, I noticed her at the customer service desk in front of the register speaking with a manager. This lady was crazy and I didn't want any of the real employees to get in trouble when I left her hanging in the aisle, so I bagged up my items and wandered over. I was a few steps away when she noticed me. Old lady, pointing at me, there he is. There is the rude employee that wouldn't help me. Manager, he doesn't work here. Old lady, yes he does. I want him fired. The manager and I looked at each other. We had a short talk right in front of her. I told him what happened and that I wanted him to know he didn't have a rude employee. He was very apologetic to me, like it was somehow the company's fault a crazy lady shops there, and then, old lady to the manager, so are you going to fire him? Manager, I don't know how I would do that, he doesn't work here. Me, you probably just need to look at me and say, you're fired. Manager, but you don't work here. Me, yeah but she doesn't know that. Manager looking at me, you're fired me. But what about my kids? How am I going to feed the kids? Manager is like WTF is going on? Manager, you have kids? Me, yeah I have kids and now their dad doesn't have a job and they won't be able to eat. Manager, I didn't know you had kids. Well, we do need help if you want to get started stocking shelves. Now I'm like WTF is going on? Me, just kidding, I don't have any kids. I was just putting on a show for her. Old lady speaking to me. See, that's what you get. After all, this lady still thought I worked there. Old lady, how's that make you feel? Maybe you'll try a little harder at your next job. Me, I don't care, I don't even work here. I told you that back in the aisle. Manager, yeah he doesn't work here. Old lady, yes, 'cause I just got him fired. Me, no you didn't. We just did that as a show for you because you're crazy. I work somewhere else, I've never worked here. Old lady, you don't work here. Me, finally you get it. Like I've said, I've been a long-time lurker but I knew this was the definition of a story for you all. Me, as I go to leave, I'm going to put you on the internet. I'm guessing something about old people not understanding the internet, but she did not like that. Old lady, don't put me on the internet. Manager, don't put her on the internet. Me, you're crazy and I'm putting you on the internet. The next story is entitled Guy Knocks Himself Out with a Rubber Mallet After Slashing My Car's Tires, and Then He Screws Up. Preface. This situation is still percolating, and is definitely a doozy. My apologies, this might get long. A very good friend of mine I've known for more than a decade reached out after radio silence for 6 months. This isn't particularly unusual for her. She's the feline type of friend who'll reach out when she feels like it, and this isn't the first time she's fallen off the face of the earth. She's reached out to me because she can't get into her laptop I helped her set up. She's forgotten the password and the facial recognition thing isn't working. I mount up and head over, and I honestly didn't recognize her until she spoke. She'd lost a significant amount of weight, and not in a good way. I gave her a hug and was honestly startled when she squealed in pain. In the past I've witnessed this girl try to kick me in the shin, miss, kick a cinder block instead and break 2 toes without making a sound. Long story short, her facial recognition wasn't working right because she'd lost enough weight that her facial structure wasn't recognized any longer. I got it sorted and we talked a little bit and she admitted her relationship wasn't going very well. I suggested that maybe she might want to take a step back and have a think, and if she wanted to do that she was welcome to crash at my place. She said she'd think about it and would call me. Well, the next day she called me in tears and asked if she could still crash in my guest room. I said of course, and we did the thing. She didn't grab all of her stuff, just a few changes of clothes and the essentials. We got to my house and I discovered my friend had a new best friend, my dog. He stuck to her like Velcro. Refused to go for walkies unless she came with. Would snuggle any chance he got, and even hurled his frisbee at her and did a play bow and growl combo that is impossible to resist. Shortly thereafter it was decided that frisbee is an outdoor sport. I pretended I wasn't the tiniest bit jealous. Sunday morning at about 2 a.m. my car alarm started going off, which it's never done before sitting in my driveway. I throw on a coat and go to investigate, and there's a random pickup with the door open and engine running in the driveway. Getting closer to my car, which had all 4 tires slashed, I saw a man flat on his back unconscious. There was also a rubber mallet laying not far from his hand and a smudge on my window. What followed probably made the 911 operator's night. 911, please state the nature of your emergency. Hi, I'm ULFR and I'm located at 1234 Not Doxing Myself Avenue. Could you please have police and an ambulance respond to my location as soon as possible? We can do that. Could you provide a little more information? Well, it looks like some jackass slashed my tires and tried to break my car's window, but the mallet he was using bounced off the window and he appears to have knocked himself out with it. I'm sorry, what? When the cops arrived he'd started to come around, but wasn't feeling up to trying to run away quite yet. The ambulance folks checked him out and said he was safe to transport in a police car. They searched him and found a knife and ID, then he got put in time out in the back of a squad car. While they were talking to me about what had happened they joked about how rough this case would be to solve. Things rapidly got less funny though when they checked the guy's truck. He had a chopstick wrapped up in butcher paper on his passenger seat with a bunch of ground glass in it. Homeboy was lucky he was in a police car when that little tidbit got disclosed. The cops said they'd get back to me about the report they were working on and said they'd called tow trucks for Homeboy's pickup and my poor car. I went back inside shaking from being outside in pajamas in New England in February and more than a little bit of fear and rage. My friend was waiting inside and wanted to know why her boyfriend's truck was in my driveway and what the hell that was all about. I didn't think I could keep my temper at that moment, so I just scooped up my pup and snorkeled him until he stopped struggling and just did a kind of whimper. He'll only accept snorkels on his terms, but I'm bigger than him. Then I told my friend that her boyfriend ducked my car all the way up and had a nice yummy steak with glass in it for the dog. She said, "I'm sorry, what?" In the following discussion several things came to light. My friend gave her boyfriend my address because she thought he was worried for her safety, and wanted to know where she was. Boyfriend found out I had a dog because she'd posted some pictures of him on social, joking about being in love with him, sharing a bed. My friend was now furious. Funny thing about domestic abuse cases, a lot of the time mental fatigue and trauma can do awful things to people's minds. The overwhelming feeling of helplessness and despair can absolutely cripple any efforts to stop the abuse or leave the situation. Normally it requires a lot of patience, time, and therapy to recover. Sometimes though, the abuser will do something so cartoonishly evil that everything snaps back into focus, and the person that was being abused winds up in a headspace that probably inspired the Greek Furies back in the day. By the time the flatbed tow truck hitched up my car to get the tires replaced we had a plan. Neither of us thought he'd go away long enough for me to really feel safe in my own home based on what he was discovered doing. Being an awful human isn't a crime, and vandalism and maybe animal cruelty would have him out on bail almost immediately. Someone dumb enough to use a rubber mallet on a car window would probably try again, convinced this time he wouldn't be caught. Domestic violence, however, can be a good deal more serious. Sadly, there was a lot of that. Once the sun came up, I borrowed a car and we went to the We get out and make our way to the doors and then immediately head back to the car because there's an armed guard at the door and my friend's starting to panic at the notion of interacting with the guard. I ask her to wait in the vehicle and go up to the guard and explain the situation. He understands immediately and gets on his walkie to summons the Mama Bear Squad. They help document everything and get the police involved. Here's hoping it's enough to keep the dude away from me and mine. Small update. Small update is small because I hurt. Turns out moving someone out in the midst of a bad breakup is pretty straightforward when half the couple is in lockup. Half an apartment's worth of stuff is currently strewn about my part of the house higgledy-piggledy because I can't be arsed to move anything else and she's not allowed to. Doctor said no heavy lifting, not her idea. She turned her key into the landlord after landlord verified she hadn't done anything shady like leaving an upper decker or putting holes in the walls. Landlord wouldn't give up her half of the deposit, which I really can't blame him for. Funniest part? Me and her dad had no trouble with the furniture. It was the boxes and bags of clothing that damn near killed me. Doggo was not pleased when he discovered the trash bag of dirty laundry wasn't his new bed. Friend was not pleased to discover my dog has a klepto streak when it comes to dirty socks. Can someone please explain to me why girls feel the need to have 50 pairs of shoes? No word on charges or bail yet, I'm keeping a close eye. Update. Friend is doing as well as can be expected. Turns out the reason things went as badly as they did wasn't what I thought. Friend's ex and I didn't get along. He always felt like he needed to establish himself as the smartest guy in the room. He wasn't smarter than me and his repeated attempts to prove he was kinda poisoned the well. I didn't push his buttons. I just don't take crap from anyone that's not paying me to do so. That makes him kind of an a-hole but not a monster. No, that happened because of a double gut punch tragedy. My friend found out she was pregnant and everyone even tangentially related to them was overjoyed at the news. Including a much beloved and very, very ill member of ex's family. The sick member of the family was resolved to stick it out to meet the new baby and fought as hard as they could to stay until that could happen. The pregnancy ended in miscarriage in the second trimester, and the much beloved family member passed away within 2 days of hearing the sad news. Ex didn't react well to anything that went on after that, and that's when the abuse started. My friend was in such a funk she didn't resist, and then there was a new and very abusive normal. When she left her ex, what little grasp on sanity he had was well and truly dust in the wind. The charges for the events I described in my post have been dropped and he's been remanded to a state mental health facility for treatment. I'm working with the police to see who I need to sue for damages to my vehicle since ex is enjoying his stay in a nice safe padded room with all the tapioca pudding he can eat. My friend and my floof had a bit of a falling out. She's got a shy bladder and he's got a desperate need to be there in your time of need on the porcelain throne. Eventually my friend put her foot down and started putting a rubber doorstop on the bathroom door so she can relieve herself in peace, and my floof is not happy about this. Yes, my dog can open the bathroom door. No, I haven't been able to go to the bathroom by myself in years. It makes her laugh when she hears the thud of him trying to open the door, so I'm just letting things slide. It makes me laugh when my pup reads her the riot act after she emerges. Would like to request the sage advice from Reddit, however. My friend feels like she needs to pull her weight and has resolved to do numerous chores around my house to make sure she's helping. Problem is, my friend is the least domestic female I have ever encountered. She's organized a room for me and totally forgotten where things got placed, broken a few things by wiping them with things they shouldn't be wiped with, and committed a dinner that very nearly killed me trying to choke down. Did you know rice can be burned? She's in a very, very fragile state and I haven't asked her to do a thing. In fact, I've reassured her that all she needs to do is entertain the dog and focus on getting herself back together. She insists she needs to contribute and I'm at a loss as to what she can do to assuage her guilt. Any suggestions on how to communicate that she's healing and not mooching? Update. Problem solved itself. Friend has decided she will repaint my guest room. My guest room was remodeled into existence to serve as a nursery, and was painted light blue. This apparently made friend uncomfortable for reasons that I'm embarrassed to admit I totally didn't see right away. She ambushed me with swatches. I know not how she got them. I suspect collusion with my parents. We actually had a disagreement about taupe or beige for a new color for the walls. I'm re-evaluating my life choices and considering mailing back my man card. The next story is titled It's Not a Taxi, but I'll Take the Cake. In a previous post, I said that since I became an adult, I get almost one "I don't work here lady" incident a month. This was my second ever incident and one of my most cherished memories. You'll see why. This happened in the early 02 or 03. A small background is needed. At that point in my life, I'm a third-year nurse student in the capital. I'm sharing my apartment with a good friend and he is sharing his car. The alleged car was the major factor of the story. It was of brand cherished by taxi drivers and also yellow, the color of taxis in the capital. The major differences from a taxi were the lack of the taxi sign and that it was a hatchback. Taxis are sedans. It was common for someone to flag us down, thinking it was a taxi, until we came closer. Anyway, it was summer and my friend was island hopping with his fiancée and had left the car behind. I had woken up to an almost empty fridge, and since I was paid the day before, I decided to forego the small convenience store in my neighborhood and drive to the big supermarket. I jumped in the car and took a major road artery to the store. I'm stopped in front of a bus stop, waiting for the light to turn green, when the back door opens and closes and hear a woman's voice saying the name of a hospital. I turn around to say it's not a taxi, but I stopped in my tracks. A sweet old lady had entered the car. She was around 65 to 70. She is clutching her purse so hard, her knuckles turning white. She is clearly panicked. She keeps mumbling, "Please hurry. She went into labor. Please hurry." I put the car into gear and starts driving towards the hospital. Nurse training kicks in and I start to talk to her, to calm her down. She starts to calm and I get the whole story. Her granddaughter, 19 at the time, was pregnant and had a rough pregnancy. An hour ago went into premature labor and the grandma was panicking. We reach the hospital 20 minutes later. The guard at the entrance knows me, because of hospital rotation. I drive up to the entrance and drop her. As she is trying to pay me, I tell her it's on the house. At that point she realized it wasn't a taxi and got a bit embarrassed and tried to give me money again. I advised that if everything went well, send me a cake. Little did I knew. 2 weeks later, my roommate is back and receives a call from the police. They wanted to find out if he was the owner of the car and if he could go to the station. My roommate asked me if anything had happened with the car while he was gone. I said no, having almost forgotten the incident. I decided to tag along and go to the station. We are met by an officer, who guides us to an office. Inside is the sweet old lady with a box. She jumps up, shouting, "That's him," and hugs me. The officer is smiling. He is the father of the granddaughter and now proud grandfather. Apparently, the lady told him about the incident and how helpful I was. He used his status as a police officer to get the plate from the CCTV and find the owner and thank me. The baby girl would have to spend some time in the hospital, due to being almost 2 months early, but otherwise all right. So I got the cake. On a final note, I met the girl by coincidence a couple of years ago. She has turned out fine and studying to be a nurse. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.